Welcome to another gorgeous day on planet Earth that we are blessed to be alive. I feel like that is my jam today. I woke up being like, I feel so happy. And I think God put like this sprinkle of love, like extra love on me when I woke up this morning. But welcome to another day of Dose of Did You Know, where intriguing, inspiring, unique individuals come to talk about love and life and how it has brought them to where we sit today. And with me is Steve Lewis. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. How you doing, Danny? How's it going?
I'm really excited today. Yesterday, not gonna lie, I woke up like angry and I was like, what is this? How can you wake up angry? Is it just because I'm a woman? I don't know, but I had to have some words with God that morning and be like, you need to get this out of me because this does not belong inside this body. So today he blessed me with some like good jam, and I'm super excited to have you on the show and share who you are and your story. But so before we get chatting, tell the world a little bit about Steve Lewis.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Been thinking about it ever since you invited me on. So hello, world. I am Steve Lewis, your friendly neighborhood Olympian. So I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, born and raised in Southern California, and lived in Northern California for a while, traveled, but I always loved coming back to the sun. And, the big part of me is obviously while I'm here is I used to be a professional athlete. I ran track. I represented the U.S. in 2 different Olympics. Was fortunate enough to win some medals in those Olympics. But, of course, the journey was not all glamorous. I had my ups and downs, right? We'll talk about that today. But was blessed to have had success. And, in my town, it's between 2 different schools, USC and UCLA. I went to UCLA. I'm a Bruin. But I have love for some Trojans. I have some friends that are Trojans. But, now I'm working in med device. I work for a company called Stryker. So I sell medical devices into hospitals. But other than that, have married 2 daughters. My youngest is 14, and she's running track. And my oldest is Ashley. And my wife, Tamara. So we are living in Redondo Beach at the moment.
Yeah. I like your friendly neighborhood Olympian. I mean, come on. There's one on every corner. Just happens to be. So our connection is through 1 mile. So I'm really excited. I don't know after this, Steve, you might not be really excited to go on a race across the America with me with this every day in your face, But that is our connection. And I got to ask before we get into that, isn't it pretty cool being I think it's really cool. I love meeting unique individuals, people with some fire and spice and something under them. And I feel like that is what 1 mile is. Mike and Chris have really created a group of individuals that bring something unique where it's not all the same energy and same background. Right? Absolutely. Do you feel that way?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's maybe why I say, I want to be your friend.
Absolutely.
So, fun fact is, my brother was lived at the Olympic training center in Colorado. He was a junior national Olympic champion. He was in gymnastics, and so I saw his success. And mostly his struggle. You think when you're going through it, maybe it doesn't, he was it wasn't like a struggle, Danielle. It was just the way it is. I'm yeah, but you're in pain all the time. And you're getting injections and your hands are being ripped off, and you're bleeding and you're this. To me, it's doesn't look like fun. Even though I was a professional ballerina, totally different. I want to know about that part of it for you. What was it like? Because I know what it was like watching my brother. What did your feet bleed?
Well, if I had my spikes on, the shoes, if they were too tight, I do have a story there. But it's all about the experience, right? And as far as the bleeding feet, I wear a size 13. I remember when I was younger, and some of my running spikes sometimes were too small. So I remember I did tighten them up in there, kind of shove them in there. I still got the job done, but I had a little bleeding there. But, for the most part, I had shoes that fit. But then, it's all about the experience, right? So, I had my highlights, but, I definitely had some moments where they were very challenging, right? Doubting myself. The workouts were grueling, just running and you're out there by yourself, particularly with track and field. For the most part, it's an individual sport when you go out there and you're competing and you got your own lane and you're vying for that victory. But at the same time, it is a team sport because I ran relays, and depending on whatever organization I'm part of, UCLA or the USA track and field team, I'm part of the team. So I'm repping myself, I'm repping my team, I'm repping my family, right? Whoever my posse was to get me to that point, that's my team. And, I didn't want to let them down. So when I'm thinking about my training and what I'm going through, right, the physical abuse, the mental abuse, because training is not just the physical that you're dealing with, it's the mental, just trying to endure. We can all start out on a journey, right? Or start out on a particular workout or a project, whatever it is, but how do you sustain and how do you finish, right? And so, important thing for me is I want to finish as strong as I started. I had this little phrase I used to say all the time I started saying it when I was in high school, but it's from start to finish, my stride is replenished, right? And so, you can interject anything you want. From start to finish, my pride is replenished. From start to finish, my drive is replenished. So it's just one of those things of I have to sustain. I have to block out, numb it, I guess, that pain that I'm feeling in these workouts and just persevere. So yeah, but I loved it. It was the struggle, right? That's what makes you strong.
Right. We talked about that. That gives you the little spice in the people, right? Is through the struggle. But I always wonder, why you? How did you do it? I look at my brother and I'm like, how did he do it? What is it inside that makes you different than the other guy or girl? Was it your family? Was it not wanting to be part of your family? Was it I have no idea how you grew up. So, was there pressure? Was there something like that triggered you to be like, I have to?
Yeah. Well, good point. So, obviously, genetics is a big part of it when you have the physical ability, right? But then there's this saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So I grew up in LA. My mother raised myself and my siblings by herself. My father wasn't in the picture. So it was just one of those things. I just, I grew up in South Central, so it was tough. I grew up and I started running track when I was about 9 years old. I had other guys around me that were just as talented as me. And, they decided to choose different paths, right? I think my grandparents, my grandfather was a big part of my life. And just my coaches, right? Because I sought out mentors. Like I said, my father wasn't in the picture, and I didn't want to let my mother down, right? I know how hard she worked. It was hard. It was. I was a latchkey kid. I used to, my siblings and I, we used to walk home together when we were young and had, so she worked hard, and so I think I just didn't want to let her down, and my family down, and my community, because I started having a lot of success when I was younger. And I just wanted to take advantage of all opportunities, right? And so when I eventually got the scholarship at UCLA, I'm like, okay, I got to keep it going. I didn't want to be one of those, oh, he was good when he was younger. What happened to all that talent? I didn't want to waste it. I didn't want, I felt an obligation to honor the folks that helped me get to that point. So how I got there, it was really, like I said, back to my posse, back to my team, the people that I surrounded myself with. And so it wasn't really about myself getting to that point. It was, how do I bring, all these folks that supported me with me? And that's was my mentality, right? It was that was my mindset. Whenever I ran, whenever I was in a race, I thought about them. And that's definitely what it was.
Yeah. You weren't winning for you. You had an objective. You had people that you wanted to, like you said, not let down, be
right.
So it was like almost a power outside of yourself. I remember finding a note in my son's stuff from boot camp, because when he got out of boot camp, he sent a whole bunch of stuff home, and then he went to his school and all of these things. And maybe it was his first deployment when he sent everything home. And I'm nosy. I'm an Italian mother. I'm nosy, so I'm gonna look through it. If you tell me not to, I'm not gonna look through it. But if it's just out on the table, definitely getting nosed too. And there was a half-written letter from him to me while he was in boot camp, and he said, I never told you why I joined the Marines. It's because I wanted to be something like, what did he say? I still have it. It's like in my Bible, but I wanted to be something bigger than myself and make you proud. Talk about making a mama cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like that was you, right? Like it was, this is your gift that you have. That was his drive, his passion, but it was never about him. It was never about you. You were just facilitating something that you could give back, right? Am I hearing that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in fact, my first Olympics, when I was only 19, I was actually, one of the youngest, well, now the youngest 400-meter gold medalist in history. But when I journeyed to Korea, South Korea, my first Olympics in '88, I brought my mother and my grandfather with me, right? And my grandfather, that was not his first time in Korea. In fact, the last time he was in Korea, he was in the military. He was a soldier and fought in the Korean War. And in that war, he was shot and, it took a shot to his lung, one of his lungs, and he was left out and no one could find him. So he was, he thought he was just going to die out there in the battlefield with this gunshot, because he couldn't speak up, right? He was, he had a gunshot to his lung. And fortunately, they found him, and he came home and he swore to himself back then he would never go back to Korea. I mean, and so fast forward, he said he had to be there with me. And, it was just pretty cool that he was able to be there and watch me do what I did. And I know how it felt for him, because when he was there last, it was just not, a good time, good experience, really. Yeah. And so, and then my mother, obviously, just the single mom raising me by herself. And so, it's just so many emotions went through me when I was there. I wasn't predicted to win that race by any stretch of the imagination. There was Butch Reynolds was the current world record holder, and they figured he would win, and then Danny Everett, another American, would take second. So hopefully they thought Steve Lewis would, maybe take a third. We can get an American sweep. But I just felt good. I felt it in me. I mean, it was just in my soul, and I kept advancing through the rounds, made it to the final, and at that point, you said, "I'm here." I mean, there's nothing else that I can do at this point that's going to make me any faster, any better, right? And so it was up to me to put my best foot forward and go out there and represent myself, my family, my neighborhood, right, my country. And I went out there and won, right? And so I remember taking the victory lap, and I was on the back stretch, and my grandfather and my mother were coming down. They're trying to get to me, and it was hard to get to them. My mother's teared up, my grandfather's teared up. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about, the journey to get there, and then to finally be at this point, to be able to celebrate it with those that were part of my life to help me getting there was amazing. It was incredible.
Yeah, that gave me like total chills, because I can see the struggle just your grandfather had to go through, right? But it's like he's doing it for you. You're doing it from him. Same thing with your mom, the struggle that it is to, I know I was a single mom at a time, raising all my kids, and just me. And all of that, like these cross emotional, like vibration of all of that going out there, and that focus. I'm so curious, just out of curiosity. So my father-in-law served in the Korean War. He was a doctor on the front line. And I'm like, oh, would that be like a connection if he was one of the doctors with your grandfather? You got to see if can find out that time for I got to do some timeline digging.
That's
Is your grandfather still alive?
No, he passed away, unfortunately, some years back.
Okay, because
he was there at that time. But
my father-in-law is still alive. He's in his 90s. But anyway, that was like. So I got to fast forward a little bit about, how did you know when it was over? Like you said earlier that you're like, I got to keep going. College is not it. The Olympics. How do you know when you're like, that's it? And I would imagine that is an emotional, hard thing to come to terms with. Or maybe it wasn't for you.
Well, I think the hard thing about sport and athletics, most times you don't leave your sport on your terms, right? You either get injured or something, or you just get too old, or there's just a faster runner in younger runner in lane 2 just waiting, right? For me, so in '88 was the Olympics. Well, my highlight, a freshman in college at UCLA, and athletics up and downs, right? Injuries, hamstring problems, whatever. And then 1990, out of the blue, I was in Europe. I just came down with some unknown virus. They thought it might have been Lyme disease, whatever it was. I just got really sick, and I was actually sick for a year. I mean, I literally couldn't train. I went back to school, and walking through campus, I was always weak, right? And I mean, this is 2 years after I was like on top of the world, right? It just I was the man, right? And so here it is now 2 years later, I'm like weak, I couldn't train. But the funny thing is I just didn't give up. I mean, I kept going out to the track because that's all I knew, right? I mean, since I was a kid, I would just train, right? But people doubted me. They thought I was over, right? But I had the support of my teammates and family, and I kept going. I thought that might have been that moment where I just didn't have any control, right? And so fortunately, that year passed. Just as suddenly as that virus came, it went away. So I had to get myself strong enough to try to get back, and I actually made a second Olympic team. Right? So I went back and made the team in Barcelona, Spain, and it wasn't my strongest self, but I still was able to win 2 more medals. I won another silver in the 400 and a gold in the mile relay. So boom, you talk about highlight in that little valley, and then the highlight peak again. After the '92 Olympics, I had some little ups and downs with the injuries, like most athletes, trained too hard. But in 1994, I think I was 25 at the time. I was living in the valley. Here comes the Northridge earthquake, right? So I wasn't living far from Northridge in the valley, and it was 4 in. I woke up panicking, trying to get out the house. I fell, slipped land on my tailbone, and you shouldn't be running out of the house during an earthquake anyway. But after that, my body just wasn't right, and I would train. I kept getting injured. Come to find out, I collapsed a disc, L5S1, had to get 2 screws in my back. So that was the end of my running career, really. And, it was sad because I felt like I was still in my prime. Fortunately, I had success prior to that, a lot of success. Thankful for that. And I had to pivot, right? And so for me, it was okay. Well, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like when you think about anything in life, you train, you go to school, to be whatever specialty you're training all these years, and say, what have I been spending my time doing all these years? Well, I've been training my mind, my body, obviously, but to be the best that I can be, right? So I felt I had certain traits and characteristics just, that would separate me from other folks, right? And so I said, you know what, I can do this. And I, started business and started doing some other things that eventually led to me working for the company I am with now. But it was just one of those things is, okay, well, let me take advantage of an advantage, meaning, okay, I'm a hard worker. I'm focused. I have that mindset of just winning and being the best. And, I'm goal oriented, right? And so I just carried those same traits, characteristics on, from my athletic years into life afterwards. And so that's what I had to do. But that's the hardest thing for an athlete, right? To pivot, to come out of that sport and figure out what else you do if you didn't have a plan. And most people don't have a plan, you just go. But so
You found the biggest secret, I think, is that you weren't defined by who you were as an athlete. You made a choice. It could have been ugly at times and got there, but unconsciously you made the choice that I'm going to take this good stuff that I learned from it and developed, and just put a different flavor behind it. You'll always be that Olympian. You're always going to be that guy that accomplished all that stuff. But what you learned from it, you identified and then just applied. I think that is what we forget, is that, like, especially in the military, right? Just because you have these skills in the military that do not transfer, the actual skill, like being an Olympian is not going to transfer. You're not going to run it, unless you're a carrier, like on foot, like a carrier. You're not going to do that. But the actual foundation of who you are is definitely 100% transferable. We have to remember that, and you remember it, and that's why you're so successful today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, you can't forget. Right? Don't let it go to waste, right? All what you've been, all those experiences, the ups and the downs. These are experiences that you have to carry with you because it's going to help you in whatever else you get involved with. So,
where is there time?
That's what I learned.
Yeah. One more question before, actually I have two questions, my last question and this question, before we kind of wrap up. Was there a period of your life where you couldn't separate you as like the Olympian, as the athlete? Was there like a moment when you knew you couldn't do it anymore, but you're like, you didn't know who you were or how to become something different? Did you go through that or no?
I did. Yeah, I definitely during the period where I couldn't control, like, so my body is what kind of got me, right? Okay, I know I can work, I know I'm fast, right? But then when that was taken away, that was hard, trying to separate it, because I at the time I identified with that. That's who I was, and I was younger, and you learn, and like, okay. And then I got older and I started thinking about it. But yeah, that was a time where when I couldn't control the thing that I felt defined me, right? Mm-hmm. And then I realized, well, it didn't really define me, because there's a lot that went into that really defines who I am, which is so much more. And then when I understood that, accepted that, that's when I was able to move on. Right. But yeah, I definitely went through that.
Like anger. Absolutely. I would imagine being angry. Like what?
Yeah. I was, and I was, because I felt like I had so much more that I could do, which I was young, but I didn't have that opportunity, which is probably why I still work out like I do now, because I miss it. But I was angry. I was hurt and sad. I mean, all the emotions, right? It was confused. But how do I channel that, into something positive? So that's what I had to learn to do.
Right. And you probably made that shift in your mindset because you've trained your mind to overcome the downs to get success. So it was just almost like this subconscious trigger. Yep, you're going to get angry. You're going to do all of these things just like every other time in your life. And then I'm going to, whatever's in you, that little fire in you is going to get lit and kind of reroute you.
Yeah.
But you still give your gift, right? You still give your gift. You're still training your children. You still train yourself. You still train athletes.
Yeah.
So it's the gift that never goes away with you.
You're right. This is true. This is true.
Right? So, oh my gosh, I learned so much more about you as a person, and I feel this is kind of silly, but I feel a little closer even to my brother, right? Because I saw him go through it, but when you can hear another high-level athlete, professional athlete talk about it, that anger and that pain, same thing. He pulled his chest muscles 2 months before the Olympic trials. So everybody he's always beat in his career, he lost to.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's like one time, one and done, man. That's tough. It. Yeah. So it makes me feel like a little closer to him. But in this moment right now, this is my last question for you. I swear, and I will let you go for the rest of your day. And I ask that you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Please don't overthink it. In this moment right now, Steve, what does love mean to you?
Well, it's appreciation, right? Because if you're fortunate enough to be able to love or have someone love you, you have to appreciate that. So, that's right on. Because the family, your friends, the people that are close to you, you love them, they love you. So I mean, it's just that appreciation. So appreciation.
Well, that's a good one. I've never heard that one, and I could feel that one right here.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good answer. It always gives me a little snippet into the mind we're talking to with that one. But Steve, I can't wait. In a few short weeks, I'm going to be seeing you out in San Diego for the 1 mile training.
1 mile. Team 1 mile.
You're going to either love it and be so happy, or you're going to be like, dear God, she is too much.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm super excited too. So I will see you soon. And to everybody else out there, remember, as always, love hard, love pure, and love proactive. Until next time. Bye-bye.